Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
You're welcome to Fusion Mobile e-learning platform. I'm Molokobik Palumi by name, the accounting tutor, and this class will be treating the correction of errors and suspense accounts. Because of learning the meaning of error, we're going to look at the meaning of error, categories of error, type of error that do not affect the total of the trial balance. Thereafter, we go to the correction of errors, the meaning of suspense account. Lastly, we're going to look at the types of error that will affect the total of the trial balance. Firstly, we have the meaning of error. Error simply means mistake made in the preparation of account. So errors are just the mistake made in the preparation of account. So categories of errors. Generally, we have two categories of errors. We have the errors that will affect the argument of the trial balance, and those errors that will not affect the argument of the trial balance. Error that will not affect the total or agreement of the trial balance. While error that will affect the total of the trial balance. So the error that will not affect the total of the trial balance are those errors that will occur in the books. At the end, the trial balance will be balanced, which means the total of the debit side will be equal to the total of the credit side. So when these errors occur in the book, the trial balance will still have a balancing entries. The debit entries will be equal to the credit entries. While those categories of errors that will affect the agreement of the trial balance, when they occur in the books, the agreement of the trial balance, the trial balance will not agree. That is, the trial balance will disagree, which means the total of the debit side will not be equal to the total of the credit side. So we are going to look at the types of error that do not affect the total of the trial balance. The type of errors that do not affect the total of this trial balance. This type of errors will occur in the books, while the total of the trial balance will still be in agreement. So we have firstly, we have errors of omission. Then 2, we have error of commission. 3, we have error of principle. 4, we have compensating error. 5, we have complete reversal of entry. And 6, we have error of original entry. Now after, we can also have the transposition error, which is not that important. So let's begin with the error of omission. Errors of omission. This category of error occurs when the trial balance, or a transaction is completely omitted from the book. That is, the transaction is not being recorded in the book at all. So the balance of the debit side in the transaction, while also the credit entry in the transaction is not being recorded. So when items of a transactions is completely omitted from the book, that becomes an error of omission. So the error of commission, this type of error occurs when an item of transaction is recorded in the wrong person's account. This type of error deals with the personal account. Maybe goods sold to Adiola was being recorded in the book of Adeboye in because of the name are similar. So when a particular items of transaction is recorded in one person's account, that becomes errors of commission. And again, we have the errors of principal. This category of errors deals with wrong classes of account. That means this deals with nominal and real account. When a transaction is being recorded in the wrong class of account, that becomes errors of principal. An amount paid for motor expenses might be recorded in what? A motor car account. That becomes of errors of principal. A nominal account will be recorded into what? Real account. So we also have the compensating error. The compensating error occurs when error compensates one another. It occurs whereby an overcast in one item of a transaction will be cancelled out by an undercast in other item of transaction, or an overcast in items of transaction can also be cancelled out by an overcast in another item of what? Transaction. When the sales account is overcast, that can be compensated by an overcasting figure of the motor expenses account. Same thing happened also. We have the complete reversal of entry. This category of errors occur when the account are supposed to be debited is credited, while also the account are supposed to be what? Credited is debited. It means the entries of the transaction is completely what? Reversed. The account that ought to be debited is now being what? Is now being credited, while the account that ought to have been credited is now being debited. That becomes the error that becomes complete reversal of entry. So that means sales of goods to hire was being debited to sales account and credited to hire account. That becomes complete reversal of entry. When the goods were being sold to hire account should have been debited, while sales account should have been credited. But guys, the record of this transaction goes in a reversed way. That becomes complete reversals of entry. Then we have errors of original entry. The errors of original entry means recording of transaction, recording the wrong figure in the account. Maybe goods sold to buyer with an amount of 703 was recorded at 730 in the book, because this can come as a result of the what? Similarity in the figure. So the errors of original entry deals with wrong figure in the book. So when the wrong figure is being recorded in the book, that is on both the debit side and credit side of the book, that becomes errors of original entry. So how can we correct this category of error? We are going to look at that now. Correction of errors. So we have an illustration on the different type of errors that do not affect the agreement of trial balance or total of trial balance. So we have errors of omission, when an items of transactions or items of transaction is completely omitted from the book. So we have an illustration on that. Payment of rents 600 naira has been omitted from the book. So we have to correct that. Since the payment of rents is completely omitted, it means no account is being debited and credited. So who will be the one to do that? And generally we know that we use the journal in correction of errors. It's one of the usefulness of the journal. So we are going to use the journal in correcting that. So we open our journal accounts. So we have the debit and we have the credit. So we have journal easily. So we have payment of rents 600 naira has been omitted from the book. So the payment of rents, we have to identify the receiving account and the giving account. Now the payment of rent 600 naira, that means the rent accounts were going to be debited, while the cash account is going to be credited. But what happened? The transaction was completely omitted. So we'll be the one to include that. So we're going to have rent. So we are going to have cash. So we have 600. We have 600. So we are going to have our narration. So there must be an inclusion of narration in the journal. So being error of omission now corrected. That has been corrected. So we've done that, we've corrected that. So the next one we have errors of original entry. That is when a wrong figure is entered into the debit side and credit side of the book. So we have purchase of goods 3,301 from Ayo is entered in the book as 3,103. Due to similarity in figure, what happened? A wrong figure was being posted into the debit side and credit side of the book. So to correct that, we have to open our journal. So we have the debits, we have the credits, so we can have the particular. So now we have the purchase account from Ayo. We have the Ayo account and purchase account. Ayo account is going to be what? When the transaction, if at all we have the correct figure, Ayo account is going to be credited while purchase account is going to be debited. But the purchase of goods 3,301 from Ayo is entered in the book as this. That should have been as an undercasting figure. It should have been entered as 3,301, but it was entered as this. So it means purchase account has been debited with this, while Ayo account has been what? Credited with this. So by what amount are we has been credited with this? So by what amount are we to increase this now in order for us to have the real amount, which is 3,301? That's an undercasting figure. So we have to find the difference between this and this. So the real amount and the wrong amount. So the difference is, so 3,301 minus 3,103, that gives us 198. So that means we have to take 198 to the debit side of the cash book to increase this amount to become this. Well, also you have to take 198 to the credit side of Ayo account to in order to increase this amount to the original amount. So we have the purchase account and we have Ayo account. So we debit that to 198. The difference between this and this, that is 3301 minus 33103. That will give us 198. So we have 198. So we are going to have our narration being error of commission, error of original entry, so it's now what? Corrected. So it has been corrected. So that is all about the error of original entry, the wrong figure. Now we have errors of principle, that is wrong class of account. If an item is being recorded in the wrong class of account, that means an item of real account is recorded in the nominal account, or an item of nominal account is recorded in the real account. So in this we have an example: office furniture 15 naira purchased was entered in office expenses account. Look at the purchase of furniture, which is a real account, was being entered into what? Office expenses account, which is a nominal account. So how can we correct that? Okay, let's look at that. We're going to open our ledger and correcting that. We have the credits and we have the debits. We have journal. Okay, so office furniture 15 naira purchase was entered in office expenses account. When the office furniture wasn't purchased, what will happen? The office furniture should have been what? Debited. But what happened? It was not debited. It was debited to office expenses account. So what are we going to do? We have to remove the 15 naira which was debited wrongly in the office expenses account by crediting office expenses account to cancel the wrong amount in the account, and then bring it back to the office furniture account by debiting office furniture account. So the double entry here to apply in correcting this error is for us to debit office furniture account with the real amount 15 naira and credit towards office expenses account to cancel the amount wrongly entered in the office expenses account. So we have office furniture and have office expenses. So we have 15 naira, we have 15 naira. So we can take that as narration, being error of just a brief explanation of what you have done in the journal. Principal now corrected. You can explain it that way. So next one, we have error of commission. This category of error occur when an item of transaction is recorded in a wrong person's account. So we have an illustration. Sales of goods to Olotu entered in Otu's account. Look at Olotu, a different personality was being recorded. The account of Olotu, so this goods we sold to Olotu, was being recorded in another personality's account. So I think the sales of goods is 500 naira. So to Olotu was then being recorded for 500 naira. Was being recorded in what? In Otu's account. So this actually used to what? The personal account or in the ledger. So we have debit, we have the credit, we have the journal. So we can correct that. We have okay, sales of goods to Olotu. When the goods were being sold to Olotu, Olotu's account should have been debited. But what happened? Olotu's account is not debited. What happened? It was wrongly debited to Otu's account. So what are we going to do? We have to remove the amount that is being wrongly debited to Otu's account by crediting Otu's account and also correctly debiting Olotu account. So that means Olotu account will be debited while Otu's account will be what? Credited. So we have 500 naira and we have 500 naira. So being an error of omission, error of commission rather, now corrected. So that has been corrected. So let's move to the next two categories of errors. Okay. So we have the compensating error. So when two or more errors compensate one another or each other. So we have purchase is undercast by 350 naira. So also is commission received by the same amount. The purchase, a debit entries is being undercast by 350 naira. So also is commission received by the same amount. So such an error we cancel out each other in such a way that they won't affect the agreement of the trial balance. So how can we correct that? We have the debit and credits. We have the journal. So purchase is undercast by 350 naira. Purchase is always having a debit entries and is being undercast. So that means we have to increase the amount by 350 naira. So how can we increase the debit balance account by which is undercast? So the way we can increase that is by debiting the purchase account since it's having a debit balance. So that means we are going to debit purchase account by 350 naira and commission receive account which is having a credit balance will be credited with 350 naira because the amount is being undercast. So we have the purchase, then we have the commission received. So we have 350 naira. We have 350 naira. So that means being on the casting of purchase and commission account now corrected. So that's the best narration for that. So next one we have complete reversal of entry. When the account that's supposed to be debited is credited and account that's supposed to have been credited is debited. So we have an illustration. Receipt of check 31,000 from Okoye's was debited to Okoye's account and credited to bank account. when you receive of check with the one that was received from Okoye's account should have been credited while the bank account should have been debited. But there is totally complete reversal of entry. So to correct the error, we're going to have debit. Open the journal account to correct that. We have the journal. So Okoye's account was being debited instead of it should have been what? Credited with 31,000. So how can we correct that? The first thing we are going to do to Okoye's account is for us to credit Okoye's account by 31,000 to cancel the amount of 31,000 that were previously debited to Okoye's account. Thereafter, we also what? Credit Okoye's account with 31,000 again. That means we are going to multiply 31,000 by 2 and credit that to Okoye's account in order to correct the errors. And again, in the bank account also, we have to multiply the amount by 2, which is going to give us 2,000, and debit that to what? To the bank account. So that means we are going to have bank accounts. We're going to have Okoye's account. So multiply this by 2, we have 2,000, then 2,000. So narration being an error of complete reversal of entry. So now corrected. So okay, we have an illustration on the correction of errors. So show the journal entries to correct the following errors. So we have to open the journal entry to correct all of the errors. So we have the debit, we have the credit, we have the journal. So the first transaction there, we have the purchase of furniture. 16 naira had been entered in the furniture expenses account. The steps in correcting errors is very simple. First thing, identifying the type of error it is. Okay, in this instance, the purchase of furniture 16 naira had been entered in the furniture expenses account. This is an error of principle in the wrong class of account. Error of principle. So what are we going to do? Purchase of furniture 16 naira entered in the furniture expenses account. That 16 naira should have been debited to furniture account, but it was credited to what? Furniture expenses account. So we are going to take the amount from furniture expenses account by crediting furniture expenses account and also debit what? Furniture account. So we're going to have furniture account and what? Furniture expenses account. So we are going to debit this and we are going to credit this. So narration being an error of principle, now corrected as the narration. So next transaction, we have sales of goods 20 naira to hire had been completely omitted from the books. This is direct. This is errors of omission. Errors of omission. So the sales of goods 20 naira had been what? Completely omitted from the book. What I'm going to do is for us to debit your account. That is the amount of goods sold to hire and credit the sales account. This has not been entered in the book at all. So we have hire account and again have sales account. I don't debit 20 to 20 and 20. So that will be narration being an error of omission. So now corrected. So the next transaction, we have payment of cash to Ogundele's naira has been entered on the debit of cash book and credit side of Ogundele's account. Payment of cash to Ogundele naira has been entered on the debit side of cash book and credit side of Ogundele's account. We have to identify the category of error it is. Payment of cash to Ogundele has been entered on debit side of the cash book and the credit side of Ogundele. That is complete reversal of entry. When there is payment of cash to Ogundele account should have been what? Debited, while the cash book should have been what? Credited. But there is a complete reversal of entry. So what are we going to do? The payment of cash to Ogundele, the account should have been debited to Ogundele's account, but it was what? Entered otherwise. So we have to multiply by 2 and debit that to Ogundele's account, and also do that with what? Cash book. So with the cash, so we're going to do what? The Ogundele's account, and we have cash account. So we multiply by 2, which is 200, debit to Ogundele's account and credit cash account. So being an error of complete reversal of entry now corrected. So the next illustration, that X purchase of goods 200 from Ayola enter in Ayodele's account. Purchase of goods 300 from Ayola entered in Ayodele's account. This is errors of commission in the wrong person's account. When the goods were being purchased from Ayola, Ayola's account should have been credited, but this enters in Ayodele's account. So that amount of entries in Ayodele's account needs to be what? Cancelled. And how can we cancel that? For us to debit Ayodele's account and correctly what? Credit Ayola account. So we're going to debit Ayodele's account now and credit what? Ayola account to show the correct entry. So we have 300 naira. I have 300 naira. So be an error of commission in one person's account. Now corrected. So the next question is sales account is undercut by 600 naira. Is as also is wages account is an error of compensating. So the sales account, the error in sales account is being compensated by the error in wages account. So what are we going to do? We are going to credit the sales account by 600 naira. Since the sales account is having a credit balance, to increase the amount, we have to what? Credit the sales account. And also to increase the wages account, we have to do what? Debit wages account, since wages account is having debit balance. So wages account will be debited, so as what? Sales account will be credited. So we have 600, we have 600. So being an error being compensating error, let's put it that way. Now corrected. So the last transaction we have here, X cash payment of 395 to Ronaldo enter in the two account as 359. This is an error of original entry. A wrong amount was being entered into the book. Cash payment of 395 to Ronaldo enter in the book as 359. When there's cash payment to Ronaldo account should have been what? Debited with 395, and cash account should have been credited with 395. But what happened? Ronaldo account was being debited rather with the wrong amount, which is 359. Same thing applies to cash. So what are we going to do? We are going to what? Debit Ronaldo account. Rather, okay, we have to reduce. Okay, we have to increase Ronaldo account by an amount. Since Ronaldo account was being debited by this, so we have to increase Ronaldo account by a certain amount. So we have to what? To increase this to this. So that, how can we do that? We have to find the difference between this amount and this. So that will be the figure which we have to add to this. We have to increase the wrong figure to the original figure, which is this. So how can we do that? Find the difference between the 395 minus 359. And that can give us 395 minus 359, so 36. So it means Ronaldo account which was wrongly entered as 359, we have to be increased by 36 in order for us to have the original figure. So since Ronaldo account should have been debited before, with 395, but was only debited with 359. So the wrong balance, we have to add 36 to the wrong balance in order to what? To increase what? To increase the balance to the original what? Figure. So we have Ronaldo's account now, which is going to be debited. Same thing we have been applied to what? To cash account. So we have to increase that with 86 and also 36. So be an error of original entry. So now corrected. So we've done how to correct error using the journal. Now we can then move to the suspense account. The suspense account is an account used to record the difference on the trial balance until the error are detected and corrected. So we use the suspense account in correcting those categories of error that will affect the trial balance. So all of the differences between the trial balance will be temporarily recorded in an account which is called suspense account. So we are going to look at this category of errors that will affect the trial balance. There are some categories of errors when they occur, there won't be an agreement in the trial balance, that the debit entries will not be equal to the credit entries. So this category of error includes the one-sided omission, when there is an omission of a single item in the trial balance. Maybe in the transaction, in every transaction using double entry, it must be a credit entry and a debit entry. So if the credit entry is correctly entered and the debit entry is omitted, that becomes a one-sided omission, and vice versa. So in one-sided omission we affect the trial balance, the agreement of the trial balance. So one-sided figure, one-sided transposition of figure. If there is one-sided transposition of figure, while also the trial balance will also be affected. When the trial balance is incorrectly correct, also the trial balance will not agree. Again, one of the reasons for disagreement between the entries of the trial balance can also be due to overcasting or undercasting figure of items in the trial balance, of one item in the trial balance. So we can look at how to open the suspense account. Let's say in our trial balance we have trial balance. So we have the debit, we have the credit. So this particular, let's call it particular, this trial balance. So we have the assets. We have 7,000. So we have the liabilities. We have 6,000. So the difference in the trial balance, can we see that the trial balance does not agree? The total of the debit side is not the same as the total of the credit side. So we are going to take the difference into a suspense account. So what happened? That become 1,000. So the trial balance can easily balance. So we are going to open the suspense account. So trial balance on the credits, this is having credits, which is the difference of the trial balance. So we temporarily record that into a suspense account. So that means when the suspense account is having a credit balance, that becomes a liabilities account. So this suspense account is a liability account. While also if it's having a debit balance, that becomes an asset account. Okay, we have an illustration on suspense account. So it goes as thus: the total of the trial balance did not agree. The difference was posted to a suspense account pending investigation. A, we have a receipt from the LACPO, 560 naira was entered in the card book, but not credited to any account. So let's open the suspense account. Open the suspense account. We have the debit. and we have the credit. So we have journal. So let's open the journal account rather before opening the suspense account. So a receipt from Dolapo 560 was entered in the card book but not credited to any account. When there is a receipt from Dolapo 560, what we should do, we should have credited Dolapo's account and debit cash account. But in this, cash account has been debited and there's no any debit credit entry to any account. That is one-sided omission, and that is going to affect the trial balance. So we are going to have Dolapo's account. Sorry, we are going to have Suspense account to be debited because the Dolapo account will be credited already, and the Dolapo account to be credited. Exactly. This is the fact that it was not credited to any account, so we are going to credit that to the Dolapo account. So the corresponding account will be a Suspense account, so which is going to be debited. So we have 560 and we have 560. So narration being omission of receipts in the Dolapo account now entered. You can narrate it that way. So there's a particular rule again, or a particular law I would like to give. It's that those categories of errors that do not affect the trial balance, if we have them, they will not appear in our Suspense account. This category of errors that will not affect the trial balance, the errors of principal, omission, commission, and the rest of this that will not affect the trial balance, will not appear in the Suspense account. So the next transaction, we have purchase from Mawa of 120 naira were entered in this account but omitted from the purchase account. This is also a one-sided omission. So purchase from Mawa of 120 naira should have been credited to Mawa account, which was correctly entered into his Mawa account but omitted from purchase account, and purchase account should have been what? Debited. So what are we going to do? Since purchase account was not being debited and Mawa's account was credited, we are going to open purchase account and debit that purchase account, and the corresponding account will be a Suspense account. So we're going to have a Suspense account. So we are going to have a Suspense account. So we have the purchase account. So debited by 120, Suspense account debited by 120. So we have being one side, we can explain it this way or this in another way, being one-sided omission now corrected. So the next thing we have there is purchase day book was undercast by 1,000 naira. Or the purchase day book which serve as a memorandum account to purchase account is being undercast by 1,000 naira. So it is what we have in our purchase day book, that what we are going to have in our purchase account. So that means purchase account has been undercast by 1,000 naira. Purchase account which is having a debit entry is being undercast by 1,000 naira. So that means the purchase account has to be increased by what? 1,000 naira. So since it's having a debit entry, we have to debit purchase account by 1,000 naira to increase this amount to the original amount. So we have to the original figure rather. So we have the purchase account. So we have the purchase account that was being undercast by 1,000 naira. So that means we have to debit the purchase account 1,000 naira. So we have the purchase account to be debited by 1,000 naira, while the corresponding account will be for us to credit the Suspense account 1,000 naira. So being an undercasting figure, of the purchase account now corrected. So we have D. It says day book was overcast by 150 naira. Now it says day book, which serves as the memorandum account to the sales account, was being overcast rather 150 naira. So that means the sales account is being overcast by 150 naira. That has to be reduced by 150 naira to return it back to the original figure. So what are we going to do? For us to correct that, we have to reduce the sales account by 150 naira, and since account generally is having a credit balance, so that means for us to reduce the balance, we have to what? Debit the sales account. If at all it is for us to increase this, we have to credit the sales account since it's having a credit balance, but now we have to reduce it. We have to debit the sales account by a 50 naira, so by 150 naira. So now we have sales account to be debited by 150 naira. So now we have sales account to be debited by 150 naira. Also, the corresponding accounts will go to the suspense account. So 150 naira. So the narration will be an overcasting figure of the sales accounts now corrected. So the next transaction, we have discount received of 280 naira was entered on the debit side of discounts allowed. Wow, interesting. Discount received of 280 naira was entered on the debit side of discount allowed. So it means discount received account should have been what? Should have been credited because of an income account by 280 naira. But what happened? It was credited to the discount. It was debited rather to the discount allowed account. So what are we going to do? We have to cancel this 280 naira from discount allowed account. So we have, for us to cancel that, we have to credit the discount allowed account for it to be cancelled. So what are we going to do? We have discount allowed. So we have the discount allowed. So we credit that by 280 naira to cancel the amount that is wrongly entered into the discount allowed account. Now, discount received of 280 naira was not being entered at all. So what are we going to do? We are going to credit the discount received accounts again to enter the correct figure, since we've cancelled the 280 naira from discount allowed accounts. So we are going to take that to the credit side of the discount received, 280 naira. Now the corresponding account now will be a suspense account. So what are we going to do? We are going to have a suspense account to make the double entry. The addition of that will be 560 naira. Then add 560 naira. The addition of this will give 560. So being an amount of discounts received wrongly entered to the discount allowed account now corrected. So that has been corrected. So the next thing we have is we have the debit and the credits. We can continue from here. We have our journal. So the next thing we have the last transaction, purchase of motor van of 350 naira has been entered in error in motor expenses account. This category of error will not affect the trial balance because it is what? Errors of principle, wrong class of account. So looking at the purchase of motor van of 350 naira, that should have been correctly entered into the what? Debit side of motor van account. But what happened is entered in error into motor expenses account. What are we going to do? We have to credit the motor expenses account to what? To cancel the wrong amount from the account. And what are we going to do next is for us to correctly enter the amount into motor van account. by debiting the motor van account. So we're going to debit motor van account at 350 naira and credit motor expenses account. So this does not involve suspense account, which means the categories of error that do not affect the trial balance will not be recorded in the suspense account. So be an error of principle now corrected. So we are done with our journal. The next is for us to open our suspense account. We can do that in this place. So we have our suspense account. We have the credits and we have the debits. So the first thing we have here is to debit the separate account and credit the LACPOD account. So the separate account should be debited. So we are going to add the LACPOD, the corresponding account. So how much? We are going to have 560 on that. Then the next one we have separate account should be credited. So we have purchase. Separate account should be what? Credited by 120. The corresponding account will be written. Separate account also should be what? Should be credited. So we are going to have purchase again. 1000. Interesting. So we also have separate account should be credited by an amount of sales. We have sales. That is going to be 150. The next thing we have separate account should be debited. So we are going to have discount allowed by debited with 260, 560, but it's dividing the 280 by discount. That is discount allowed. And discount received 280. So I think that is all. So for us to balance the account, so balance the account involves us adding out the items on the debit side of the account. We have 560, 280, 280. That gave us 1120. Then we have 120 plus 1000 plus 150. So that gives us 1270. So that means the credit side is greater. So we're going to have balance carried down in this place at the debit side. So the differences is actually 150. That balance carried down. Then we have 1270. Then we can have balance brought down in our suspense account 150, which represent the difference in the trial balance. So we've treated the meaning of errors. We did the correction of errors. We look at those errors that will affect the trial balance, these errors that will not affect the trial balance, and afterwards analyze error in the journal and correct errors. So I will advise, if you have any difficulty with the topics or you have some confusion on the topics, do not hesitate to just replay the video to be able to understand the topic perfectly. And also some questions will be displayed on your screen. Do not hesitate to attempt the questions. Thank you.